Alrighty guys, welcome back to another video from BrickByBrick, and today we're going to be comparing the two Ultra Dragons that Ninjago has released. On the right here we have the 2012 Epic Dragon Battle, set number 9450, and it was released in the second 2012 wave, or I think it was second. I don't think there was a spring wave, but it was, originally released as the largest set in that wave, containing 915 pieces, 7 minifigures, and retailing for $119.99. On the left here, we have the 2019 Ninjago Legacy Ultra Dragon, and the Ultra Dragon was released in January 2019, containing 951 pieces, and retailing for $85. And now, just right off the bat, this one has more pieces, and is a whole lot cheaper. But the new one does also contain one fewer minifigure, so there is that to consider. But it's also a whole lot more designed to be just one individual build. There is this small side build. There's the split down the middle, Great Devourer being on that side as well. So we're going to go through this and we're going to see if we can make sense of it and figure out which one is the better Ultra Dragon, and then on top of that, which one is the better set. And removing just the dragons themselves, we're left with a whole lot more on this side. Everything, I guess I should make the gap a little bit bigger, but everything from this side over is from the original 2012 set. This is all we get for the new one. So both of them have this sort of serpentine shrine build, but this is a really tiny section. I would consider maybe this is, very generously giving it $5. And this over here, I could see that being I could see it being a $40 set. Split the figures up a little bit, but I think the builds here are, worth the increase in price. So I think just, following that basic value logic that the dragons should be about the same value, so it is fair to do a direct comparison. I do think, that the original set does benefit quite a bit from having this as side builds, because you do get a whole battle in one set, which is just nice to be able to get, So I guess we will compare the dragons and the figure selections, and let's see where that takes us. Figures wise, the most directly comparable is Garmadon, as literally the same exact design of the character, the same exact version appears. Of course, the one on this side from the Epic Dragon Battle set does have all 4 of the golden weapons, but the golden weapons were less of a collectible item in the legacy sets, so this one just gets swords. But as you can see, they're very similar in printing. We're not going to go too in depth on them, but they are attempting to be the same Garmadon. They do have the different helmet colors, which I guess is the most notable difference. Also, I guess this one, the legacy one, does get some back printing, but other than that, they're very similar. They're both really well done figures. I don't think one's particularly better than the other one, but they're both cool. Aside from Garmadon, not too many direct comparisons can be had, aside from the Lloyd and Woos. Lloyd here, the original one from the Epic Dragon Battle, I think is significantly better, as it actually appears in the show. But, the new Legacy one isn't bad. It's just the Legacy version, and the one that appears in Season 10. So, it's not anything too crazy special, but, both of these are well-done figures for what they are. I just far prefer this one for both nostalgic reasons and, the fact that it does appear in the show back in the proper scene that this is supposed to be based on. And each set does come with a Woo. They're both significantly different versions of Woo, but they both have the same staff and beard. They have different facial expressions, just because they've evolved over time. Lloyd was the same way, and Garmadon too, I guess, but Garmadon's was the most similar. Both of these are good figures. I will admit I really do love the Legacy Woo a lot, but, you know, there's nothing too crazy to say that one is particularly better than the other, as they are based on different things. This one didn't really appear in the show, if at all. It definitely wasn't in it much. And with all the other figures, there are really no direct comparisons to be made, so we're not going to make any. The one thing here, we have 3 Serpentine figures. We have 3 Serpentine figures. J is just kind of a bonus, which I guess, you know, the set is a lot larger, so it makes sense to have 1 extra figure, and honestly, 1 extra figure seems like a small amount. But Scalador and Acidicus are both exclusive figures to this set. Chocone only appears in 1 other set. With these 3 figures, Pythor only appears in 1 other set, but Spitta and Lasha are both very common figures appearing in, you know, at least, I think Spitta's in 3 sets and Lasha's in 4. I could be getting the numbers wrong because I didn't look this up right before recording this, but you know, they are both common figures, and they both appear in really cheap sets as well, so, you know, they're not the biggest draws, and I do think that overall the figure selection of the original set is better, because, you know, it does have Scalador and Acidicus, who are 2 very desirable and exclusive figures. And I think the Lloyd figure also helps give this set the edge. So, looking at the dragons themselves, just right off the bat, they appear similar in size. This one, I think, is actually a little bit larger. The wingspan is larger for sure, because it does use these cloth wings. It's not that much larger. It's, I guess the thing is, on this one, the wings go a little bit taller vertically, while on this one, they come just straight out. The other instantly noticeable difference is the heads. We have the molded dragon heads here, and the brick-built ones here. And while these ones look more accurate to the show, I definitely, you know, touched on this in my review of this set that I just went back and revisited recently. I don't like these molded heads because these bottom jaws like to fall off like there's no tomorrow. These I find just a whole lot sturdier and work a whole lot better. We do have the ability to shoot that ball out of the mouth of the dragon, which does not work too well because it's difficult to get them to actually press down through the rubber head. Whereas on these ones we have these studs that will just shoot off like you do, you know. And I think that that works better as you know, a projectile feature for the dragon heads, as you also get that functionality on each individual dragon, and you get, you know, different colors, different elements for each head, versus on that set you got the single ball, and, you know, only the outer heads can use that. The one other thing, this is just a minor thing really, that this dragon has going for it, is it actually has the heads in the right order. I mentioned that they were out of order on in my review of this, and that I knew Flame was in the wrong place, but it actually goes on this side, not on that side, as I had suggested in the review. So, you know, this got that right. Again, that's not a huge deal just for, you know, like the actual merits of the set itself. It's just, you know, it's more accurate to the show, but, you know, it is what it is. But I do think overall this one is just a more accurate look. I think the wings, these look like they're straight out of the show, really, with this plastic design. Obviously, you can't replicate that with a, you know, brick-built thing, so you can't do that perfectly. And I think that these look good for what they are. It's just these look better. And from the backs, I think it's rather apparent that, you know, they definitely went the extra mile with the newer one, making the body actually appear like it does in the show. You know, it's very white, which is what it's supposed to look like. It's supposed to look white and scaly, and I love the introduction of this new color. I think that was a new color, right? For this piece here, this rocky wedge slope thing in white. That looks perfect for the texture of the body. And just looking at the backs of the wings, you know, it's a little bit skeletal on the new one, but I think that that's fine, especially, you know, compared to the front. On the back, it looked just as bad, and, you know, had a bad appearance from the front, or I guess I won't say bad appearance, but a not as great appearance from the front either. The tails are very similar as well. Probably the most similar, you know, function-wise, it looks looks reasonable. This one is significantly longer, but the last segment is just all one thing. I don't know how much I like the very end of the tail. I think I like this version of the end of the tail better, but this one does not have that gear that allows you to turn it with ease. It requires you to manually move it side to side. The back legs are also the same function-wise. They're locked in place with just the foot itself that is on a ball joint. Just turning them sideways from the sides, they look reasonably similar. The one thing that we've lost with this new version, though, is that the front legs no longer have any posability at all. With the old one, you have the little ability to just move that back and forth, just like that. Limited range of motion, but still, it is more motion than is present in the newer model. And the front feet and back feet are the same on the older model. In the newer one, the front feet have these extra claws, which can be articulated a little bit. The one other thing I didn't mention earlier about the wings was that the old one did get the claws on the wings. They're not functional or anything, but they do appear in the show, and the new one sacrificed that. But again, I think that is perfectly fine. And there you go. There's an example of the fact that the old Ultra Dragon's heads kind of sucked, because it's lost the bottom of the mouth. And, once you put it back on, it does not want to stay at all if you have the heads facing straight down. But one other thing that we should take a look at is the seats. And, in the show, Ultra Dragon has like a whole large saddle area that can fit multiple people. Obviously, these are not full scale with the show, so they are not able to fit as many people. But, on the old version, Lloyd stands in here, and that looks fine. He's looking down a little bit when the wings are like that, but so is this one. But we actually do get a nice, pretty well-detailed seat for the new one. And there's a little bit of gold here. The brown here is obviously supposed to represent the saddle area. And then the one thing that's nice about the new one, it's not exactly show accurate. Like, it doesn't look like it's designed for figures to sit up here. But there are studs that allow you to attach figures, should you choose to. And with that, you can definitely get one here, 2, 3, 4, 5, and maybe a 6th and 7th if you really squeeze it in. And you could also seat 2 more people up there if you really wanted to. It will look really crowded. And, it's not the best look. It's not designed to look good like that, but it functions like that, like it would in the show. And I find that pretty cool. And, I respect it quite a bit. The other thing that molded heads allow you to do, which I guess is kind of obvious, but I didn't mention it earlier, is you're allowed to open up their mouths and, pose that a little bit, as well as you get a little bit more articulation here, I think. I'm not going to move those around because even the articulation that you do have is very fragile, and, it'll end up, causing the bottom jaws to fall off, which is probably my most serious criticism of this set, because look at that. Yeah. It's, it is what it is, though. I'll move that out of the way. I'm not even going to bother attempting to reattach it. Sorry, Flame. But the last and final thing to comment on is actually a similarity between the two, and that is that they were able to bring over this feature from the first one, the flapping wings. Basically, it's designed so that you're able to put him on the ground like that, and then lift it up by the handle, and he will be flying. And then, you can lift it back up and down if you wanted to make his wings flap. And that feature, was introduced with the first one. You're able to flap the wings pretty successfully until you get stuck on your own foot. But you're able to flap the wings, and then they break. So there's that. They don't usually break. I think that's the first time I've broken it. I might have built something wrong in putting it back together. But, it's, again, designed so you're able to do the same thing where you have it standing on the ground like this, and, you can just pick it up. But I guess I don't remember having this issue much as a kid, but did I stand down? Yeah, I stood on top of the foot. That is the problem here. So, there. Now, if we are down on the ground, we just lift it up like that, and, it works. But the one thing is, the feet don't have enough friction to want to stay flat when, you lift them up. They want to, not come down as easily, so you kind of have to push it back down into the landing position, whereas with the new one, it'll want to allow you to do that. I guess it sort of is the same thing, but I think the new one, that wing flapping feature, works just a little bit better than on the old one. And of course, I still think that the largest problem with the old one is that dragon's head. So, overall, I think that the new one is a huge improvement on the old one. The one thing that I will accept as a criticism of the old one, and that I can sort of sympathize with, is that the heads on the old one looked better. But I do think that, at least personally in my experience, I hate these heads because they do not stay together. And in that regard, I do prefer the new one's heads. I admit, if they could do these without a rubber, and allow it to, to actually attach. Like if they were to have redone these molds in a hard plastic like they did with the Golden Dragon, albeit in a smaller form, I would have, preferred that probably, maybe. But, the way it stands, I would definitely recommend this version over the old one. Just even if they did downgrade the appearance of the heads just a little bit, because I don't even think that these look terrible. They made huge improvements on the body and the wings, and I think that the price of the new one is actually really good for what it is. The one thing that is lacking from the new one, I guess, is the figure selection, and in that regard, if you are really a Ninjago figure collector, the old one is a good set to get. But I do think that build-wise, the new one is far superior, and it's nice to be able to get it at an affordable price without including the other stuff for those who missed it the first time around. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you did, let me know in the comment section down below, and I will see you guys all next time. Bye, everyone.